Welcome to Topsail Insider, where you can hear all about the businesses and events in the beautiful coastal towns in the greater Topsail area of North Carolina.
Hello, everyone. This is Leah Norman from Topsail Talk, and I'm co-hosting today with Krista on Topsail Insider. We have a special interview with Mr. Kenneth Chestnut. Kenneth Chestnut is the son of one of Ocean City's founders, and he is here to share the rich history of Ocean City and give us an inside look at the Ocean City Jazz Festival, North Topsail's premier cultural event that features Grammy-nominated jazz musicians. Learn how this vibrant event has become a cornerstone for jazz enthusiasts and a celebration of cultural heritage. You don't want to miss this insightful interview today on Topsail Insider.
Experience a new level of luxury on Topsail Island at Saltwater Suites in Surf City, North Carolina. With no nightly minimum, you can enjoy short getaways or an extended stay. Each suite features luxury bedding, full kitchens with dining tables and dishwashers. And all suites other than the 3 ADA suites have full-size washers and dryers. And don't forget about those beautiful ocean views. 24/7 self-check-in provides a hassle-free and seamless experience. Saltwater Suites is the perfect choice for your next beach getaway. Book your next Topsail visit at saltwatertopsail.com or call 910-886-4818. Saltwater Suites, Topsail Island's premier luxury hospitality experience. Come on out to Surf City Line for the best made-from-scratch beach and bowls on Topsail Island. Treat yourself to their delicious bowls with shrimp, steak, fish, chicken, or pork. Or enjoy their peel-and-eat shrimp, beach break salads, and more. They offer a full bar serving handcrafted cocktails, incredible margaritas, and they proudly serve North Carolina craft beer. The Line boasts the biggest deck on the island with 3 levels for listening to live music, relaxing in the sun, or head on up to the top deck to enjoy your meal with ocean views. Visit surfcitylinenc.com for their full menus. The best service and beach vibes on the island await you at 2112 North New River Drive. Whether you're a local or visiting from out of town, celebrating a special occasion, or just soaking up the sun with family and friends, it's always a great time at Surf City Line. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Topsail Insider. My name is Krista, and I am your host. And today's co-host is the fabulous Leah Norman from Topsail Talk. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today, we are talking with Mr. Kenneth Chestnut. He is a second-generation resident and the son of Mr. Wade Chestnut, a founder of Ocean City. Welcome, Kenneth. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this.
It's going to be fun. I feel very honored that you're coming here and sitting with us today.
The privilege is mine. Thank you.
We have a lot to cover. We're going to talk about the history of the Jazz Festival and the logistics. But first, I want to talk about the history of the Ocean City beach community in North Topsail.
Yeah, it's so important to know the history, and I came to know it when I was introduced to the festival. Then I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Chestnut, and he is just a wealth of information, and I'm still learning, but I'm so excited to bring this information to you guys. And so I'm going to now pass the mic on to Mr. Kenneth, who is going to tell you about the founding of it and how it came to be.
Thank you so much, Leah. I always enjoy telling this story. And when I look back and think about the founding of Ocean City, it's just constant excitement. And it's so important to tell the story. I believe that the story of communities like Ocean City very often do not get told or they get erased. And so part of our mission is to continue to tell the story so people are aware of this long and rich history.
I will say that when I first moved here, Kenneth, I did not know the history. I didn't even know where Ocean City was on the island.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I interviewed the ladies from the Missiles and More Museum that I heard about it and I learned about it.
That's right. And the Missiles and More and the Topsail Historical Society have done a great job. We just last month open a new exhibit featuring Ocean City. So we're excited about that. And again, it's an opportunity to tell the story. Well, we have a couple of things coming up. One is we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of this community we call Ocean City. And then the second thing that's a part of that is we're having the 14th annual Jazz Festival. Mm-hmm. So let me just talk briefly about the history of the Ocean City community. It was founded in 1949. Prior to that, Topsail Island was a part of Camp Davis, which was a military base during World War II in Holly Ridge. They had an operation on the entire Topsail Island. It was called Operation Bumblebee. And so if you're traveling on the island, you'll notice some towers, typically a 3-story concrete tower that survived storms, hurricanes, everything, and they're still standing. Some have been converted into different buildings, homes, retail shops, and so forth. And so the cornerstone of the Ocean City community was a tower, if you will. But after World War II and Camp Davis closed, the whole island was open for redevelopment. There was a gentleman from Wilmington. His name was Edgar Yow, Y-O-W, and he and his brother were very prominent lawyers in Wilmington. He was a mayor, in fact, in the mid-40s, Edgar Yow was, in Wilmington for a term or two, and his brother was city attorney. Mr. Yow was able to develop a large segment of Topsail Island, primarily Surf City going north. And some reason he had this vision of African Americans being able to own oceanfront property on Topsail Island. Now, where that originated, I never knew, but he had this vision of this occurring. And you have to remember the context of the time we're in. We're in 1949, which is 50 years essentially from 1898, some 20 plus years from Shell Island at Wrightsville Beach. And so in this environment in the South, he had this vision. And he decided to do something about it. He knew a Dr. Samuel Gray, who's originally from Jamaica, who had a very prominent medical practice in Wilmington. And so he talked to Dr. Gray about it. Dr. Gray said he was busy with his medical practice, didn't have time, but he knew someone that may be interested. And Dr. Gray knew my dad and his brothers. They had an automobile repair shop on the north side of Wilmington, and they had a very good business. They had records and did a lot of automobile repair. I think at the height, they had maybe 12 mechanics working for them. But my dad, the vision resonated with him, and so he left the family business and devoted his time to developing Ocean City. And his brother, Robert, was the first president of the corporation, and my dad was one of the founders and committed the rest of his life to this development. And so a corporation was formed. Mr. Yao was a part of that, a couple of other gentlemen, my dad and his brothers, to develop this 1 mile stretch. And so they had a map made and plans made of an area that would be carved out for retail and business area, and then the rest for residential. And so once they did a map and divided it into roads and lots and so forth, they went about trying to sell these lots. They would go around to different medical organizations where doctors would be or lawyers would be and promote Ocean City. And so at the time, the lots on the ocean were $500. The lots, if you can believe that.
It'd just burn you.
Yes.
And the lots off of the ocean were $100. So
Incredible.
But that was, again, in late 40s, early 50s. I remember my dad talking to a lady who wanted to buy a lot. And he said, well, don't worry about the money. Just give me a down payment to hold your lot. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, can I put a down payment on the down payment? I think she was a school teacher. Yeah. And so the concept of it was to be a residential community where people could feel safe and own property and enjoy the beach and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then the tower was converted into a restaurant, expanded and converted into a restaurant. Oh. And it was called Ocean City Terrace.
Interesting. So, I've never heard that before.
And then the restaurant was expanded so people could look out over the water and enjoy their meal. And then there was a terrace above where people could look out at the ocean. It had music and so forth. So it was really a nice community. When you look back at some of the old photographs of families on the beach enjoying it, and Later, a fishing pier was built. This was in 1958. And the fishing pier was one of the best locations for fishing on the island. And so a lot of people would come and fish on this fishing pier because if the fish were just biting, and particularly in the fall when spots are running, then people would be shoulder to shoulder catching fish. And so people would come there from all walks of life, and their focus was on fishing. So it didn't matter their background, their race, or where they were from. They wanted to catch fish.
Love that.
And so that was the focus during that time. My dad managed the fishing pier and the restaurant. And so as a kid, I grew up working for him. So whatever he wanted me to do, whether it was picking up trash or on weekends, I'd sell snow cones.
You started early?
How
old were you?
I was 12 years old.
And
when I started.
You loved it?
Oh, yeah, I did.
I bet you did. I
loved growing up on the beach
God.
with my friends and so forth. But that was the whole concept of Ocean City, and that's what made it thrive. And because people just didn't have the opportunity to enjoy that kind of environment and the beach and so forth. And so lots started to sell. Our house that my mom and dad built, and let me take a second about my mom. She was an educator. She taught school in New Hanover County for over 30 years.
Wow.
And is well known. I still run into some of her students today.
Oh, my gosh.
But she was very active in the community. She was on the board of the hospital, New Hanover Hospital, and president of the YWCA in Wilmington when they merged, when the Phyllis Wheatley, which was the black Y, merged with the white Y. She was president of that. And later received a Lifetime Achievement Award for that. So she was very active in the Episcopal Church as well, which is a church family we're members of in Wilmington. And so we would be on the beach during the summer. My brother and I would be working, just busy supporting the business, but we'd have time off to swim and fish and all that. So it was a great childhood and a great time to be growing up. Yeah. But the first house was built in 1949, and then there were some other people that built homes there. For example, next door was Mr. Rogers, who owned a funeral home in Fayetteville. Next to him was a Mr. Millette, who had a cleaning business in Wilmington. A Dr. Norris, who was a dentist in Durham. Mr. and Ms. Williams, who taught school in Wilmington, and he worked for the Coastline Railroad. And then Dr. L.W. Uppelman, who's a very prominent physician in Wilmington.
That you can remember all this is amazing. Now, these were people who were they started buying the lots and building
and they built their homes.
They're not considered the founders.
Well, not the founders of the corporation, but some of the original homeowners.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were some others that, Dr. Cowan, who was a physician from Wilson. So I'm just trying to paint a picture of people that came from all over. Carla Torres' dad, Mr. Eaton, was a prominent builder. In fact, he built 30 homes on the island. All these homes he built. So they were one of the early families. And so things were moving along in 50, 51, 52, and then in 54, Hurricane Hazel came. And it was just devastating. It wiped out almost all of the homes, maybe except for a couple.
That's terrible. But the pier wasn't built at that time. The pier came in 50. Okay.
Not at that time.
So you took a blow.
We took a blow.
Pretty early on.
That's right. It was a severe blow. And I admire those founders and early home builders for the tenacity of building back.
Oh, they did.
I often say they could have given up and say, well, we tried, it didn't work. But they had the tenacity to build back and built back smarter. And so the house that we currently have, the family home, was built in 55 after Hazel. And so houses continued to be built then. And then in 57, a chapel was built. The corporation decided to carve out a portion of land on 210 and donate it to the Episcopal Diocese of East Carolina. The pier was built in 58, the first pier.
Oh, the first pier?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
The first pier was built in 58. And that was a corporation of homeowners, and some of the people that built homes there invested in the corporation. My dad was the president of it, but there were a lot of investors. The Yowes were among those, and some other business people in Wilmington that invested in this pier. So it was a multiracial ownership of the pier. Along with that, the church in Wilmington was St. Mark's Episcopal Church that we were members of. The rector there was a Father Curtin. Father Curtin would come to the beach and have Sunday service in our living room. just for a few residents that wanted to go to church. So you'd have a service there. And then that took some traction, and more people started coming. And so the chapel was built. This land that the corporation donated to the diocese became the location for the chapel.
Nice.
Which is still here today.
Now?
It's there now.
Okay, do you know what
I
chapel?
haven't seen it, no.
Okay, it's the Wade Chestnut Chapel. It was rededicated, named after my dad in 62. There's some pictures that Leah's referring to that show the first service. Carla's dad, Mr. Eaton, built this chapel. And so there were folding chairs and so forth for the first service because people were just anxious to get into it. It was first called St. Mark's Chapel, and then after my dad died, it was rededicated in his honor. The other connection with the Episcopal Church was Father Curtin had this idea of a camp for African-American kids, Episcopal kids, or really any denomination, but a place where they could go and have a camping experience. The first camp was at Pawleys Island in South Carolina. That was destroyed after Hazel. And so he talked to my dad about setting aside a certain segment of time during the summer for kids to have the camping experience there in the restaurant where they would meet and have activities and then have beach swimming and things like that. And then the motel was built about the same time as the pier. And so the kids would stay in the motel. And so that happened for about 3 years. I went to that camp.
You did?
Yeah. And so
I wish listeners could see the smile on his face right now.
In fact, there's a lady who lives on the beach that would tease me because I'd have my little bag walking from my house over to the camp.
Oh, my
And she said I was so serious, about going there.
Love that.
But that camp touched so many kids. I did an article on the history of Camp Oceanside, is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And once it started really getting some traction, dormitories were built, activities building, and dining hall was built. And it could accommodate maybe 60 kids, and they would have different sessions. Mm-hmm. The priests from this diocese would come and take their vacation very often and devote their time to a particular area of the camp. One may be a Bible study or arts and crafts or oceanfront activities and so forth. But the grown people today fondly talk about the camp and the impact it had on them. It was typically a 2-week session for kids, and they just have fond memories because they would have not had the opportunity to have a camping experience like that otherwise. And so and so there are pictures of kids and just having fun and all these activities planned for them.
Is it still happening today?
No, because in 1985, the camp closed. What occurred was integration, so was one thing occurred well before then, but the diocese decided to build a new camp. This Camp Trinity is on Emerald Isle. Mm-hmm. And so there was a white camp called Camp Leach, and then there was a black camp, Camp Oceanside, that I'm referring to. Uh-huh. And so those were closed, and the new camp was Camp Trinity, which is at Emerald Isle.
Okay.
One of the important things, particularly for my mom was on the board, very active on the board, was for kids to have a neutral place to go. She taught school. She saw what happened during integration when black kids went to white schools and they were rejected or had difficulties.
Right.
And so her big focus was persuading the diocese, let's close both camps, and then they start at a neutral camp. And so that's what occurred. And so it's a thriving camp, Camp Trinity. It's a conference center. And so it's
still going on today?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
My son went there. My grandson went there, in fact, for a couple of sessions. Wow. But to keep Oceanside from becoming a camp, again, the dormitory was torn down, and then one of the buildings was torn down. And the buildings that are currently there, which is a chapel, the community center, and a cottage, currently serve the Ocean City community.
Okay.
And so church services occur between Memorial Day and Labor Day every Sunday, and there are different priests that rotate in and out. And so people come from all over. Some are residents, some are on vacation, and they see it on the website or Facebook page, and it's very casual. And so there's a wide range. Each Sunday, there's a different person conducting service.
I feel like this is kind of a dumb question, but do you see a real uptick in attendance during the high season, the summer months?
Oh, yes. And we were
Yeah.
only open during the summer months.
Oh, you are?
So
okay.
it's only open from
Gotcha.
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's active in the community center, which was the activity center for the camp, still standing, and it serves as a community center for the Ocean City community today.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the proceeds, which we'll get into the Jazz Festival, help support these buildings.
The upkeep of the historic
building.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
right. That's right.
Okay.
That's an important part of the community. This chapel, the community center, and so forth, but it originated as a camp. I mentioned there was a motel built. It was like 12 units there, one-story motel.
Is it still there?
No, it was demolished, and so actually destroyed in 1996. We had two major hurricanes, Fran and Bertha.
Right.
And they wiped out the pier and the motel and several buildings. I mentioned that the first pier was built in 1958.
Yeah.
There were a series of hurricanes that damaged the pier. It would have to be rebuilt. And so it was a long pier, had a kind of a bulb on the end of it where people could fish. But hurricanes would destroy it. It would build back, destroy it, and build back until it got to the point that it was not financially feasible to continue to do that, and you could not get insurance on it. I'm thinking of one occurrence where my dad and I were at the pier, and a storm was coming, and the wave started coming over the end of the pier. And he said, son, we were watching. He said, son, I think it's time to go home. I said, yeah, Dad, I agree.
Oh, gosh.
So we went to Wilmington, and then the next day we came back down, and we could only get as far as the North Topsail line coming north on 210, where it goes from Surf City to North Topsail. There was a store there. It's called the Mermaid. Currently, it's called the Line. It's there now. But we could get with cars, get as far as that, and then there were Jeeps that would shuttle us back to sea because people wanted to know how their homes were. They would always call my dad, how much damage is it? And of course, that was well before the concept of cell phones.
Right.
Yeah. The next morning after this hurricane, my dad and I were coming back to check. And so we were standing there in the parking lot waiting for a Jeep to take us down, and Mr. Yao was there. And so I was about 12 years old. And so Mr. Yao asked me if I wanted a soda. And I said, no, Mr. Yao, I don't want a soda. And he said, yeah, don't you want a soda? I said, no. And I didn't want a soda because I knew I couldn't get served in that location.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was just the way it was. It was the Jim Crow era that we're in. And so it was against the law typically for anybody to serve. So,
it was not the Line at that time. It was the Mermaid. You're talking about the store that was there.
That's the Mermaid, yeah.
All right.
So I couldn't eat at a Woolworth's lunch counter, for example. So that was the environment that we were in the Jim Crow South. And so he said, don't you want to? I said, no, it's yeah. So he insisted and took me in, and he told the gentleman there, give him a soda. And the guy looked at him, but he gave me a soda. He didn't have to do that. But that's something that stuck with me. It told me what kind of man he was. So when nobody's looking, nobody really cared, he spoke for who he was.
Yeah.
And so that's always resonated with me. This Yao was, as I said, a prominent attorney. He loved hunting. He would have a station wagon with his hunting dog in the back, and you'd see a streak of tobacco along the side of his car. But that's just who he was. He and his wife had a house not far from there in Sneads Ferry area.
Oh, okay.
But that's who he was. And so I tell that story just to get a picture of who Edgar Yao was.
Yeah.
And so he and my family, his wife and family, became good friends of ours, and we knew their son and so forth. And then as we moved forward, the community was started to get some traction, and we were appointing the time frame of dealing with some threats to the community, primarily environmental threats, I'll call it.
Okay.
And so we have sea level rise, we have hurricanes, and we have a different type of hurricane in that the previous hurricanes were mainly wind events. And so they would pass through in a day or so, and then and be gone, or usually it was a day, and primarily high winds and some rain. But in recent years, we've seen hurricanes at a huge water event. So they'll just hover and dump water,
Florence
inches and
was
inches
that
and
way,
inches
yeah.
of water. And so that's another threat. And then the other is erosion, which we're seeing all up and down the East Coast. And so with sea level rise, erosion, hurricanes, all the coastal communities are threatened by this environment that we're currently find ourselves in.
Right.
I'm currently very active with the North Carolina Coastal Federation.
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit that really works to protect the environment and protect the coast. So I'm on their board, and so I'm driven to that because I've seen over the years the impact on the coastline.
What happens in the future to the community?
There are steps being taken to move sand up on the beach. It's called their beach nourishment projects.
Right.
You see those all up and down the coast. Every community is dealing with that.
What about, is it called seagrass? What is this?
Seagrass helps to stabilize it.
Are y'all doing that specifically in
definitely
ocean?
are.
You are?
We've been doing that for years and years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But in spite of putting the sand, sometimes it's pumped up from the ocean or hauled in. Just finished a segment of the project Phase 5 this spring, and the sand has been hauled in. But over the years, what I've observed is Mother Nature will come and reclaim her sand.
Yes.
And so you do this, and then the sand will go back out, and then people will but I don't know how sustainable it is. It's very costly. And so there's always a debate as to who pays for it. Is it certainly the local governing authority, whether it's a town, or they have only a limited amount of money. They rely on Raleigh or federal funds to help support that. And then there's a debate, are we really helping those homeowners, or are we helping to restore and make available this resource for the whole state of North Carolina that people can use? So there's a debate about that, but that's the effort being made. And then once the sand is up, definitely stabilizing it with a lot of different methods. Seagrass is definitely one of those.
I got to say, and I'm not there on the front lines, and I don't see it, right? I'm over here. I'm in Hampstead. So I feel like I see pictures after the hurricanes. I see the nourishment happening in the news or in photos online. But then another storm comes, and it feels like it becomes like a little cliff, like it's washed off, and it just
exactly
goes
right.
out as quickly as it took a long time to get it nourished.
That's right.
And then it goes out so fast.
That's
and
right.
it's heartbreaking. And I know that's got to cost a lot of money. I know it costs a lot of time. Have you seen homes washed away over the years? You have?
Absolutely. One of the streets on Ocean City community is Ocean Drive. If you go north on Ocean Drive, the street continues, but there were houses on the ocean side that are no longer there. It's just a dune now. So over the years, those houses were destroyed. There were houses there that were destroyed. And this goes all up and down the coast. I mean, if you think about Cape Hatteras, the lighthouse that had to be moved some years ago.
Kenneth, I was in the 3rd grade when we collected money in our classroom to contribute to moving that lighthouse. Yeah. It's been going on a long time.
So that's a part of the threat that we're dealing with. The other threat is, I mentioned that the whole concept of Ocean City was to have a family-oriented community. With pressure for vacationers to have access to the beach, we're seeing some large homes, I call them mini hotels very often, but they have multiple bedrooms being built where people would come, have no awareness of the community, use the ocean, and leave. If you have too much of that, then it destroys the character of the community. And so we try to do what we can to keep it as a low-density, family-oriented community.
That's got to be a battle.
And so there's some balance with that.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the Outer Banks and you see all those mini hotels there, that's what we're trying to stay away from. Wow. But there's obviously pressure because more and more people are moving to the coast or to this part of the state, really all up and down the state of North Carolina, South Carolina, et cetera. There's more pressure for people to have access to the ocean and vacation. Some of that's okay, but if you get too much of that, then it destroys the character of the community.
The history of it.
That's right.
Is there nothing in place to protect? It's a historical mile.
That's an excellent question. We try to do a couple of things. One is we, first of all, have signs that were built last year that mark the location of Ocean City. There's Ocean City signs on each end of that mile stretch so people know when they're entering Ocean City. Years ago, the city helped us dedicate street signs that has the Ocean City logo on them so you can know when you're in the community. And then in 2011, we were made a part of the African American Trail for Onslow County.
Nice.
And so there's a plaque and photographs and so forth in front of the chapel that note that. And then in 22, we were named a part of the Civil Rights Trail by the state of North Carolina. We were number 4 in the state. They're doing 50 locations. And so we were number 4. And the Secretary Wilson from Raleigh and State Natural and Cultural Resources, once we had to make our case and do the application, which Carla just did a fantastic job about the history. So we have a historic marker noting that as a historical
And tell me about Carla.
Carla Torrey is William and Octavia Eaton's daughter. And so she's second generation. She is past president of the community, Ocean City Community Citizens Council. And she's the chair and organizer, she and her husband, Craig, of the Jazz Festival. You know, and they just do an incredible job. They really dedicate their lives to Ocean City and applying for grants and helping organize the Jazz Festival. So whatever they ask me to do, I'll do, like today, you know.
Is that the only reason you're here?
Yeah, I tell you, So
well, thank you,
I do
Carla.
it with love.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Carla's, they're a tremendous couple, and they really dedicate themselves to everything that we're doing. So a lot of these things that I'm talking about, Carla and Craig have initiated. And we have these events and recognitions to help make people aware of the community and the history of the community. And so going back, Krista, to your question about preservation, then we talked to the state historic preservation about that, but we have such a mixture of architectural types now that we really didn't qualify. And some of that's because of hurricanes, and so there's a certain style of house that was built in the 50s and 60s. Primarily, it's a flatter roof, maybe 2 stories, and then there's a mixture of homes that have been rebuilt or new homes built. And so it's such a mixture of types of architecture. It wasn't consistent enough.
And there's no way to control.
No, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunate, though.
That's right. And so Ocean City started as a community. It's still a community. When it started, there was no North Topsail. North Topsail didn't come into being until the late 80s. And there was a road, there were power lines, water lines, but the houses that were built early on were on septic tanks. I mentioned Dr. Uppelman being one of the early homeowners and very prominent physician in Wilmington. And Uppelman Center at UNCW, he funded that upon his death. His daughter still lives in Wilmington. But he would collect money from the homeowners to pay for streetlights, for example, because none of that was there.
Oh, wow.
So it was just really a road. And then if he went further north, he even ran out of electric lines. But let me just take a second and describe the sense of community that I mentioned and what would happen. There are some photographs of the men getting together. They play cards or whatever, and the ladies would get together. But one of the favorite things for the ladies to do would be to go crabbing. They would go crabbing at
I did not expect to hear that. I'm sorry.
They would go crabbing at the inlet. And they'd catch these, just bounties of crabs. And they had it down to a science. They knew when to go, when the tide was beginning to turn.
How about that?
My mom would say, and others would say, that you go when the moon is rising, not on a waning mood, because the crabs have more crab meat. And so being a smart kid, I said, is that right?
Probably,
it was right.
Yeah.
It was right. And so what they would stage was the ladies would get together, drive to the inlet, and then us kids would tag along to help them to carry the baskets and the nets and everything, because you had to walk about a half a mile.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To the inlet, and it's the North Topsail Inlet. And so that was a big event. I remember one particular day that a couple of friends and myself and my brother were going along with them, and they were just catching crabs. They had a bushel basket, a couple of them full of crabs, and they didn't want to stop. And so they told us, take your jeans off. We had on our swimming trunks under it. and they would tie it up the ends of our jeans and put crabs in there.
Oh,
So
my
they were
goodness.
very innovative.
So
you know.
innovative. Smart ladies.
And when they would come back, they would make all these dishes that they would share with each other, like a crab casserole and devil crabs. And
Love that.
And they would just go house to house, just sharing the fruits of their labor, if you will.
Strong
these
sense of
dishes.
community. I love that so
And
much.
so there was a cookbook developed in the 80s. It captured these recipes. It's been a new version of that with additional recipes.
Still
in it.
available.
Yeah, that's
Amazon?
available on
Where
the
do
website.
we get that? On the
it's
website.
on the website,
Okay.
Ocean City
Wow.
website.
I didn't know that. Every time, that's what's amazing about it, is that every single time he talks about it, I learn new things. It's amazing.
And so a lot of those recipes are captured. But that's a sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was going to Surf City to get a paper or to get something, they would blow their horn as they went down the street. Do you need a paper? Yeah, or can I get you something? And so forth. So that's the environment that we were in.
Before we move on to all things Jazz Fest, let's continue with history a few minutes more. How did the Ocean City Jazz Festival get started?